Among all covert aggressive behaviors, few are as psychological disorienting as the silent treatment. Whether deployed by an insecure partner, a passive aggressive colleague, or a manipulative relative, the sudden withdrawal of communication feels like an invisible wall dropping into the relationship. The instigator cuts off eye contact, ignores messages, responds in icy monosyllables, or acts as though you have vanished into thin air. Bond. Most people misinterpret the silent treatment as a simple desire for space. In reality, it is a calculated mechanism of psychological control. In social psychology, silent ostracism triggers the exact same neurological pathways as physical pain, specifically activating the anterior cingulate cortex. By withholding communication, the instigator artificially induces panic, self doubt, and anxiety in the victim. Amanda, the true goal of the silent treatment is power inversion. The instigator wants you to break down, question your reality, endlessly analyze what you did wrong, and come crawling back to beg for their acknowledgement. The moment you chase them, apologize for things you didn't do, or shower them with anxious affection to break the ice, you hand them absolute control over the relationship. Lambd, Dale, Carnegie observed that mastered communicators never allow another person's emotional volatility to dictate their internal state. To survive and dismantle the silent treatment, you must recognize it for what it truly is: a childish, low status coping mechanism used by individuals who lack the emotional maturity to express their grievances directly. Bond. Neutralizing this tactic begins with an immediate mental shift. Refuse to take the bait, recognize that their silence is a reflection of their emotional inadequacy, not your worth. Banda, stop chasing validation. Withhold the anxious begging, pleading, or spamming that the instigator craves. Maintain your internal peace. Treat their quiet wall as an unearned holiday from emotional drama. In the next section, we will break down the psychological mechanics of why chasing an instigator destroys your authority and how to deploy the emotional mirror protocol to disarm their silence. Yuxin, recognizing the silent treatment as a covert control tactic, allows you to stay calm and refuse the urge to chase validation. When someone stonewalls you, your brain's immediate impulse is to close the emotional gap. You want to send long paragraph texts, ask, "What's wrong?" 20 times, or pace around the room trying to guess what triggered their withdrawal. This response is called the chasing spiral, and it is the exact psychological drug the stonewaller feeds on. The moment you chase, you validate their childish behavior. You teach them a dangerous lesson. If I ignore you, you will panic, elevate my status, and give me absolute control. Over time, this dynamic turns every minor conflict into a hostage situation where your peace of mind is held for ransom. When to break this pattern, you must execute the emotional mirror protocol. This technique flips the psychological pressure back onto the stonewaller without escalating the conflict or resorting to petty games. Shunt exceeding the emotional mirror protocol requires 3 precise steps. First, deliver a single, clear door opening statement. You do not ignore them back immediately, which leads to a double silent treatment war, nor do you beg for attention. Instead, you state reality, calmly set a clean expectation, and open the door once. "Anu, I notice you're quiet right now and seem upset. I'm ready to talk through this like adults whenever you're ready, but I won't guess what you're feeling. My door is open when you want to communicate." Remember, the statement accomplishes something vital. It strips away their narrative that you don't care, while firmly refusing to play the guessing game. Second, Practice radical unbothered disengagement. Once you deliver the door opening statement, step back entirely. Go about your day with normal, calm, and upbeat energy. Focus on your work, engage with friends, hit the gym, and maintain your routine. Do not sigh, look miserable, or try to catch their eye to check if they're still mad. Third, enforce the silence vacuum. Narcissists and stonewallers expect their silence to create a heavy, suffocating atmosphere that forces you to break down. When you fill that space with calm productivity and emotional stability, a psychological vacuum is created. The stonewaller suddenly realizes that their primary weapon isn't working and that they are the ones becoming isolated, uninteresting, and obsolete. M. Dale Carnegie emphasized that you cannot force another person to cooperate, but you can change the entire dynamic by changing your reaction. By refusing to chase, you deny them their emotional supply and force them to confront the awkward reality of their own immature behavior. Lemmed in the next section, we will cover the boundary reset protocol and how to respond when they finally decide to break their silence and pretend nothing happened. Delivering a single clear statement and maintaining calm productivity creates a psychological vacuum that neutralizes stonewalling. When the silent vacuum becomes unbearable and the stonewaller realizes you are not going to break down, chase them, or beg for forgiveness, a predictable shift occurs. They will attempt to re-establish contact. However, because they lack the emotional maturity to offer a genuine apology or discuss the underlying conflict, they almost always deploy the sweep it under the rug maneuver. That they will suddenly talk to you as if nothing happened, asking a mundane question. Do you know where the keys are? Making a casual joke or acting warm and affectionate out of nowhere. This moment is a critical psychological test. If you immediately accept this low-effort re-entry with relief, smiling, acting overly grateful, and sweeping the multi-day silent treatment under the rug, you reward their bad behavior. You teach them that they can inflict emotional distress on you, hold the relationship hostage, and pop back in whenever they feel like it with zero consequences. Boundary to permanently break this cycle, you must deploy the boundary reset protocol the exact moment they break their silence. Lemdale Carnegie emphasized that respect is built on consistency and firm, fair boundaries. When you handle conflict with structured, unemotional clarity, you show the other person that you value the relationship but will never sacrifice your self-respect to maintain it. MDM exceeding the boundary reset protocol requires mastering 3 specific conversational beats. First, execute the calm redirection when they try to initiate light, casual conversation after days of stonewalling. Do not act bitter, sarcastic, or explosive. Respond politely, but immediately pivot the conversation back to the unresolved communication breakdown. Stonewaller casual tone after sand days of silence. Hey, what are we doing for dinner tonight? Bend you calm, steady eye contact, neutral tone. I'm happy to figure out dinner. But before we jump into normal routines, we need to address the 3 days of silence. Bend second, enforce the impact and standard framework. Clearly articulate the operational and emotional reality of their behavior without using accusatory language. Use I statements to outline your standards for healthy communication. You continuing, when conflict arises and communication is cut off for days, it damages trust and prevents us from solving problems. Moving forward, I need us to address disagreements directly. If you need space to cool down, you can tell me you need an hour or two, but withdrawing completely for days doesn't work for me. And third, maintain the firm threshold. If they attempt to gaslight you, you're making a big deal out of nothing, or shift blame, I was only quiet because you pissed me off. Remain anchored in your boundary. Do not get dragged into a debate about who started what. Simply restate your communication standard. No, I'm not arguing about the original disagreement right now. I'm telling you how we handle conflict moving forward. I value our relationship too much to let stonewalling become our default pattern. Means by holding this line, you shatter the stonewaller's expectation that silence can be used as a free, consequence free weapon. You force them to realize that returning to your presence requires adult accountability, respect, and mature communication. In the next section, we'll explore how to handle chronic silent treatment in professional settings, specifically when toxic colleagues or managers use stonewalling to undermine your projects. Okay? Holding a calm, firm boundary when someone breaks their silence prevents them from sweeping toxic behavior under the rug, while the silent treatment in romantic or family relationships is driven by emotional insecurity. Professional stonewalling is purely strategic. In corporate environments, toxic managers, jealous peers, or passive aggressive cross functional partners use silent treatment as a tool of political sabotage. Indeed, they ignore your Slack messages, forget to reply to critical project emails, skip your meeting invitations, or flees you out during group discussions. Their goal is simple: to delay your deliverables, make you look incompetent to leadership, or provoke you into an unhinged emotional outburst that gets you disciplined. Lands when a colleague deploys professional silent treatment, attempting to appeal to their feelings. Did I do something to upset you? Is a fatal tactical mistake. It signals weakness, hand delivers leverage, and gives them an excuse to label you as needy or overly emotional. Lem to defeat professional stonewalling, you must remove all emotion and execute the operational override protocol. Carnegie taught that in business, objective clarity and cold, systematic professionalism strip power from bad actors. When you shift the conflict from a personal friction frame to a documented business risk frame, workplace stonewallers are forced to comply or risk exposure to executive leadership. Plan to execute the operational override protocol, follow these 3 structured steps. First, deploy the public operational paper trail. Never let a colleague's silence remain a private friction point between just the two of you. After sending a direct message or email that goes ignored for hours, send a clear, date-stamped follow-up that loops in necessary stakeholders or project channels. Hi, name. Following up on my previous note regarding the QSend budget approvals. We need your sign-off by Sunling PM today to keep the launch on schedule. If I don't hear back by then, I will proceed with option B as outlined to ensure we don't miss the client deadline. And notice the brilliance of this framing. You are no longer begging for their response. You are setting an operational default that moves the project forward, despite their silence, while quietly documenting their lack of responsiveness. For anyone auditing the project line, second, practice the in-person neutral benchmark. If the stonewalling colleague works in the same physical space or attends the same virtual syncs, never match their icy coldness or act intimidated. Greet them with brisk, cheerful, and loud professionalism in front of witnesses. Good morning. Name. Did you get a chance to review the deck I sent yesterday? Band. If they respond with a silent stare or an icy grunt, do not react. Simply offer a polite, second smile, turn back to the group, and continue the meeting. To everyone else in the room, you look like a composed, mature team player, while the stonewaller looks hostile, bitter, and unfit for collaboration. Third, execute. The executive impact escalation. If their silent treatment directly blocks mission critical company deliverables, schedule a brief sync with your manager or HR. Frame the issue strictly around business outcomes, never personal feelings. You know, I'm encountering an operational bottleneck with the design sign offs. I've sent 3 requests over the past week with no response, which puts the project launch date at risk. How would you recommend we unblock this pipeline? Emilian, by focusing strictly on operational throughput, you force management to step in and handle the bottleneck, completely neutralizing the Stonewaller's covert power play. GEMD now find we will bring together all 4 parts into an unshakable blueprint for achieving absolute psychological immunity against emotional manipulation, stonewalling, and silent control tactics, documenting operational defaults and maintaining cheerful public professionalism disarms workplace stonewalling and exposes bad actors. Surviving, dismantling, and rising above the silent treatment is ultimate proof of your emotional maturity. Whether it occurs in personal relationships or corporate environments, stonewalling is never an indicator of your worth. It is a clear, unmistakable reflection of the instigator's internal fragility, fear of vulnerability, and inability to engage in healthy adult dialogue. Blends, when you refuse to chase, panic, or compromise your dignity, you shatter the very foundation of their control tactic. You show them that your peace of mind is an unassailable fortress that cannot be held hostage by icy stares, unreturned messages, or passive aggressive avoidance. M. Dale. Carnegie anchored his entire life's work in a simple, profound truth. True authority and deep human connection come from self mastery, calm empathy, and unwavering self respect. When you master your internal state, you stop reacting to the emotional storms of others, and you gain complete sovereignty over your life and relationships. And as you move forward, carry these 5 core principles of emotional immunity with you. See through the tactic, recognize that silent treatment is a low status control game designed to provoke panic and force submission. When refuse the chase, deliver one clear door opening statement, then step back into calm, productive, and unbothered living and create a vacuum. Allow your emotional independence to fill the room, forcing the stonewaller to confront their own isolation. Hold the boundary. When they break their silence with casual small talk, calmly insist on addressing the communication breakdown before returning to normal routines. MD borrowed professionally. In the workplace, use objective paper trails, default operational deadlines, and unbothered public civility to protect your career. Blend just by embodying these habits. You transform what was once a source of intense anxiety into an opportunity for quiet power. You step out of the shadows of emotional manipulation and move through the world with unshakable calm, dignity, and absolute psychological freedom. Mastering emotional independence turns passive aggressive silence into quiet personal power and unshakable inner peace.